Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and here with me is Wendell Pierce, Tony-nominated star of the recent revival of Death of a Salesman. And Wendell, you have won a Tony for producing Clybourne Park. You were nominated for producing Radio Golf, but this is your first time here as a nominated actor. How
Yes,
has it so far felt, different from your past experiences?
it is absolutely tremendous. It is, um, while those two other experiences were great, there's nothing like receiving a nomination as a lead actor uh, in a play. And then on top of that, to do it with the role of Willy Loman in Death of a Salesman on Broadway. It is the pinnacle of the experience of being an actor. And I am enjoying the experience, and I am so profoundly humbled and grateful.
And Willy Loman, I think, is probably one of the most coveted roles in the theater canon. It's, a lot of people have this on their bucket list. When did you first see that role and say, I want to play that? Was there a moment like that
I
for you?
There was never a moment like that. It was always something that was just there, and it was one of those things where you always wondered if you would be able to meet the challenge, and so that was the thing that was surprising when I was offered the role. All of a sudden, something that was just kind of on the peripheral of your imagination of maybe this might happen becomes a reality. And then that's when it just was voluminous and unexpected, challenging, exciting. Just all of those emotions came about, and I leapt at the chance because uh, opportunities like that never come along uh, quite as often as you would hope. And especially at this point in my career, it was the perfect marriage of where I was and the challenge of the role. So I leapt at the chance.
And this is the first time on Broadway that the Loman family has been played by Black actors. And I'm
Mm.
curious, what did that prompt? What kind of investigations into the script? What new uh, revelations or information came out to you?
But what happened was you realize it is a iconic and well written play. It delves into the humanity of um, of our psyche that is universal to everyone. But the more specific you are with your choices, with your investigation, the more universal things become. So, from the African American perspective, and that's what we brought to the play. Everything was heightened because who would know about the the amorphic, ever-changing, disappointing pursuit of the American dream than an African American family in the early 20th century when everything possible is being placed in front of them. So uh, they aren't able to attain that dream. It is one of those things where you realize it's traumatic. It's a traumatic experience where you are hoping for some meritocracy, but you are in a state of denial if you embrace this idea that things will be as equitable as you think they will be. You've seen it destroy your family prior, and it is a false hope. And even within that, Willy Loman still pursues that dream, and it heightens the destructive nature of his pursuit, and it deepens the traumatic impact that it has on the family. I think about all of those families. I think about my own personal family of those dreams and visions and opportunities lost. Uh, my grandmother graduated high school and at the age of 69 because when she was in school, there was no schools for Black children past the sixth grade in Southeast Louisiana. And I think of all the lost lives, the lost opportunities, the lost humanity. When I think of the lost idealism that Willy Loman goes through, And so it was a heightened awareness of the destructive nature of that deniability in pursuit of the American dream. Who better to know how the American dream turns into the American nightmare than an African American family? And so that's what we brought to it. And it heightened things so much that people thought we had changed the play. We didn't change anything, maybe just one reference, word for word. I had a producer come to me and ask, did we add a line? Because this line was so impactful. When I turned to my white mistress and I said, there may be a law in Massachusetts about this. Go in the bathroom. She thought we added that. And did we check with the estate before we put it in? I said, no, that's the line. So it was really illuminating and lifted it up. And there were some people who saw the play for the first time. I was stopped by a woman who had seen all productions on Broadway. She was 100 years old, and she waited for me outside to say, I saw something tonight that I had never seen before. She saw the original production with Lee J. Cobb and all the subsequent productions on Broadway. So that was a real gift and reward to hear that.
Wow, that's incredible. It really did stick out to me, Willy's position as a Black man in trying to be in business, which is a white dominated space. At that time, it just seems the aspect of these people kind of stringing him along, and the false hope, the false dream he has really, I think, resonated much more in this production. What dynamic does that add to him? Because he really, you play it in a way where he really truly does start to unravel because of these unattainable dreams.
Yeah, I wanted to show the traumatic impact that it would have on the man. It's normally played as this slow dirge to death. And the first impulse that I had was to fight the dying of the light, like Dylan Thomas says. I wasn't going to accept no for an answer, that there was a visceral fight to maintain sort of dignity and respect and integrity in light of all the obstacles placed in front of him. It is also a part of the community, the African-American community, its culture, which is, in spite of everything, there were Black businessmen and women who were out there doing well. There were people who found a way out of no way. And so that was the thing that drove him and drove the man, because in spite of all of that, there was the success of men like Oscar Michaud and Madam C.J. Walker, who had empires. Oscar Michaud is one of the first people who understood what independent film was all about, and he four-walled movies before people even thought of it. And Madam C.J. Walker, the empire that she built in the beauty industry. So I think of those men and women that gave him even a slim chance of hope, a glimmer of hope that helped him to pursue that. But then the overwhelming impact of his denying what is really actually happening to him, how it only destroys him more. And in that selfish pursuit of, in the sense of that deniability, it then has an impact on his psyche. And so I wanted to explore the psychic breaks that happen in the man, and just not the emotional downturn, but literal physical psychic breaks that destroy the man. And in his last act of desperation, he even sees that as an act of great triumph, that he's actually giving his sons and his family something in spite of all of his failure. He feels as though his own self-destruction is a gift that he's giving to his family, but it only destroys them more. That's his tragic flaw.
Yeah. And you mentioned the physical. At one point I noticed there's almost like a physical tick that comes out in your performance at some point in the play. And it's like underneath the surface, there's turmoil in this man. How did you develop that physically?
I, I thought of the synaptic nerve. My older brother was the scientist. God rest his soul. He was a biologist and a dentist. And when I was a little boy, he taught me about the synaptic nerve. I don't know why. He would happen to be studying it, I think, at the time. He's just a teenager. And he was just saying how fascinating it was, that how a thought travels so fast. You know, you want to move your hand, and just the instantaneous thought of moving your hand moves. And it's because of the speed of the electronic impulse of the synaptic nerve skipping from space to space. And he explained it to me in detail. And that's what I thought of when I thought of the tics, that the synaptic nerve was firing off when he had his memories, but it wasn't firing correctly, that there was something that shook him, and the tics came, and there was a physical manifestation of his psychic breakdown. And so that's where it came from.
Mm. And you had such great chemistry with Sharon D. Clarke, who played Linda in this. What was it like creating that relationship? What was the key to making that chemistry work?
Sharon D. Clarke was, as I say in the play, you're my foundation and my support, Linda. From day one in Clapham Studios in London to the Young Vic in the West End and on to Broadway, she was my rock of Gibraltar. She was my partner. We were hand in glove from moment to moment. And that was something that we wanted to make sure we explored, that in spite of all the pain and indignity, there was a deep, deep love. And if there's anything that has sustained Black family through the trauma of the experiences that we've had in our community, it's been the love that we found in each other. And we wanted to make sure that that was demonstrated. And I think Sharon D. Clarke transformed the role, the doormat of a woman who Linda's normally played as. She showed the power of and the strength of Black women who raised her, who raised me, who raised our community. And that is the love that I have for her. And that's the thing that sustains me. And her love for me was the thing that sustained her through all of the portrayal on my part and the pain that I caused her. We were very conscious of the fact that we wanted to have a depiction of Black love in this play that illuminated why they were still together and why they were still struggling through all the way to the last moments. And I think we achieved that. And I'm so grateful for Sharon. She took care of me on and off stage.
Did you notice different ways that audiences reacted to things from London as opposed to Broadway? How did it feel different to you?
Yes, I did. What I realized, Americans are very visceral reactions. It's their play, it's their iconic play. People of all walks of life from disparate parts of our culture and society, they were all very, very reactive, even in the silence. I'm not just talking about reactions to stuff. You could actually feel the visceral response to the play. Not that we didn't have that in London, but it was, it was very thoughtful. It was the psychology of the play, I think, was what people focused on, or felt like people focused on in London. But the very visceral nature of the disappointment and the painful trauma that the family and the man is going through, you could feel and hear just in the breath the American audience. There was one moment in particular where I have the most humiliating moment of my life, where I'm asked to pick up something off the floor, just a simple act of picking it up, being forced by my insulting young boss, being demeaned by him. And there was a visceral scream, a primal scream from the third balcony one night. No! And you could hear in this woman's voice that she knew that humiliation. She had been there before. There was a cathartic moment. No one shushed her in the theater. It was exactly what it was about. And so it was amazing.
Well,
and that's the difference with the American audience and the London audience.
yeah, that recognition. Well, before I wrap up, I want to take you back to something you said earlier about that woman who stopped you, who had seen all these productions on Broadway, because there's an epic pantheon of actors who played this, from, Brian Dennehy, George C. Scott, Philip Seymour Hoffman. What does it feel like to know that when people study this play and look at this play now, your name is now up there with that group?
Oh, that is a humbling, profoundly moving, proud moment. That's the history that I'm really making, that I'm joining the small fraternity of men. Lee J. Cobbs and George C. Scott, Dustin Hoffman, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Brian Dennehy. I saw most of them, 3 of them. But to know that my name is in that small fraternity of men, that is the honor of a lifetime for an actor. And to come to this point in my career, to make that mark at this time in my life also is a sense of profound fulfillment and satisfaction that I can be a part of that number and be mentioned in that austere group. I am very proud of that. And that is the history that I'm making.
Well, Wendell, thank you so much for chatting with me, and congratulations on a very well-deserved nomination. And
thank you, Sam.
Thank you
for all your support.
Thank you so much. For everyone who's watching, make sure you subscribe to Gold Derby. Stick with us this season. Wendell, it's been a pleasure.
The pleasure was mine.